So there have been times when I've been accused of being of a somewhat gloomy nature. And it's true, I tend to take a somewhat dark view of the human condition and of affairs in the world. But if you listen to the first of our readings this morning from the book of the prophet Isaiah, it might have occurred to you that Isaiah the prophet makes me seem like Norman Vincent Peale. Isaiah the prophet has a dark and foreboding vision of life. And it doesn't get a ton better when we get to the gospel reading. In those days, Jesus says, after that suffering, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light, and the stars will be falling from heaven and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. But the reality is, Advent is intended to be a reality check. The season of Advent, as we prepare for, maybe less so this year, but in some years as we prepare for the frivolity and the joyfulness and the light and the beauty of the Christmas season, Advent is intended to ask us to just stop for a second and be aware that there are times when life is just desperately difficult and hard. And whether that's true at the moment in my particular circumstance, there's almost certainly someone around me I know who is going through a difficult and a painful time. And certainly, if we look at the whole world, we know for sure that there are people everywhere around the world who are suffering, always. Throughout the whole of human history, there has never been a time when everyone in the entire world lived in joyful peace and harmony and full provision of the necessities of life. And the reality also is that we know that even if for us at this moment, perhaps things are going relatively well, that the fact is a time is going to come in our lives when we will struggle. There's going to come a time in our lives when we experience what Jesus foretold, the powers in the heavens will be shaken. We all experience shaking in our lives. There will always be something that comes into our experience that brings turmoil. There will always be something that causes the supports that we've built around ourselves to feel a little bit wobbly, to feel a little bit uncertain. All those things we've done to sort of shore up our sense of identity, our sense of security, our sense of safety, our sense of strength, all of those things, they will at some point in our lives be called into question. And they will all eventually, in one way or another, they will all let us down. Doesn't matter how strong we've built the structure of our lives. Doesn't matter how much money we've saved up in the bank. Doesn't matter how many relationships we've built around us. A time will come when those things begin to feel less secure, less safe, less certain. So the question is not, will things fall apart? The question really is, how will I respond to the reality that things fall apart? And Jesus appears to answer that question in the reading that Kathy read a moment ago, particularly in verse 33 of Mark's Gospel, chapter 13, where, according to the New Revised Standard Version, Jesus says, beware, keep alert. I'm not totally enthusiastic about the translation beware. Beware, what does it mean? It means be on your guard, be braced. It means be careful, be cautious, maybe even be frightened. I talked a bit about this last Sunday, that fear is perhaps not always the best ground in which to build a Christian life. And I shared a quote with you, and I should have given this to Larry to do because he's so expert at it, but I'm going to try to see if I might be able to share a screenshot of, let's see where it is. I got to find it first. A screenshot of a quotation that I read to you last week, and it kind of went by, so you might have missed it. And I want to try to show it to you if I can, but I need to find it first. There it is. So I found it. Now the question is, can you find it? So let's see what happens if I come back. No, that's not going to do it. Where have you all gone? Oh, I know. Maybe you're down here. Okay, there you are. Now, let's see. There it is. Look, I've got it. Or maybe I don't. How sad. There it is. Do you see that? We know, this is Cynthia Bourgeau, we know from our own life experience, I hope, that negativity and punishment do not create an optimal environment for growth, let alone for the growth of love. That defended, embattled, that beware stance often comes with a huge shadow side of fear, hate, and pride. Love, she says, on the other hand, thrives on gentleness, trust, and a sense of safety. We know from our own life experience that negativity and punishment do not create an optimal environment for growth, let alone for the growth of love. That defended, embattled stance often comes with a huge shadow side of fear, hate, and pride. Love thrives on gentleness, trust, and a sense of safety. So beware seems to me perhaps not to be the perfect way to respond to the reality of the shaking that takes place in all of our lives. So I'd prefer to translate beware as the Greek actually more literally translates it, which is simply see. Just open your eyes and see what is going on. Open your heart and see. Open your mind and see what is happening. What is happening in your life? What is happening in the lives of your families and friends and the world around us? Jesus is calling us, especially in this Advent season, to be willing to see the reality of our condition. This isn't about being afraid. It's about being willing to see the way our lives are being shaken and how we resist that shaking and brace ourselves against it. Because when we see that, then it begins to dissipate. So he's asking us, the next word says beware in the NRSV, but I want to say see, and then he says keep alert. The translation, keep alert, is from the Greek agrupaneo, and it means attention, pay attention, see and pay attention. See and pay attention to what is going on in your life, because shaking times are coming. Struggles are a reality. Upset and disharmony are part of life. There is nothing we can do to avoid such things for the entirety of our lives. But if we can see them, if we can see that shaking that inevitably takes place, if we're willing to open to it and not resist it, then we will see, the promise is, we will see something else at the same time. Jesus says, when you see these things taking place, you know that he is near at the very gates. When we're willing to see without turning away, when we're willing to look and pay attention to the realities of our lives, our hearts open to the possibility of seeing another reality, that there is, at the heart of all existence, at the heart of creation, at the heart of our lives, there is a presence, there is a light. In the midst of the darkness, the light does shine. And the thing that helps us to open to see that reality is our willingness to see all the rest. When we look away from the shadows, we don't see the light. We need to be willing to see the shadow in order to open to the sun. We need to be willing to have clarity of vision about the struggles and the difficulties and the heartaches that inevitably come into life. And that's why this hope idea is so significant. And I said at the beginning to the children that we think of hope in two ways. Oh, I hope I'll get a puppy for Christmas. And that hope's fine. It's lovely to hope for nice things. But that hope will always let us down. I may not get my puppy. I really don't want a puppy for Christmas. Please don't anybody send me a puppy for Christmas. But if I did, I might not get one. And my hope would be dashed. But there is another kind of hope. And it's this hope that he is near. He is here at the very gates. It's the hope that's a noun. It's the hope that dwells in our hearts, that lives in our lives as a strong, steady, confident presence. You know, you hear a lot about having self-confidence and developing self-confidence. And I suppose that's a good thing. But there's a greater confidence we are called to. We are called to the great confidence of Jesus. The confidence that as much as life may shake and tremble, there's a goodness and a truth at the core of our being that never lets us down, that never stops, that never goes away. And that's why as we light the Advent wreath Sunday by Sunday, you find the closer we come to the center candle, the closer we come to that presence we call Jesus, the more deeply we know in our hearts that the light does shine more brightly, the closer we come to truth. So Advent is a call. It's a call to awake, to awaken to the realities of life around us, not in despair and sorrow, not in defeat, not being overwhelmed, but with the confidence that there is a truth and a goodness at the heart of life, that life is dependable, that life is in fact working for our full becoming, and that we can trust that process when we respond to the realities of our circumstances with openness and softening.